Well, hello and good evening, and welcome to my first ever live stream. Typically, I've done these in the past in person, so it's uh, interesting to be live and doing it, in the comfort of my own home. But I figured with everything going on, this would be the best way to uh, you know, recognize Financial Literacy Month here in April and provide some information that hopefully will help you get your finances together and get out of debt. So the plan for tonight is really hopefully we'll have some more people joining us. I see just a few. So the goal is really to walk you through some of the steps that my family and I used to get out of over $100,000 worth of debt, and then be able to answer any questions that you may have. So I think I'm going to kind of jump right into the presentation. So just bear with me so I get to share that with you. So let's share it. And we are sharing. There you go. So I think the big thing that you want to keep in mind is that you're not alone, right? There's a lot of people that don't understand how to manage their money, that are in debt. When I've done these talks in the past, I usually would do a handout and ask people, how much debt they were in, and the responses that I collected totals over to $1.5 million worth of debt. So the people that I've talked to were well in, well over $1.5 million worth of debt. It was consumer debt, college, mortgages, a lot of different things. So I think that's important to know that you're not alone. 10 years ago, my family was in the same boat. We were over $100,000 in debt. So our history with debt, like I said, we were in $109,000 of consumer debt, and it was spread across five different credit cards. And we never really had a plan for our money. We just thought it was normal to have debt. Everybody had debt, and as long as we could manage the minimum payments, we would be fine. Um, and what happened for us to finally realize that we needed to do something different with our money was we were planning a summer vacation, basically looking to how were we going to pay for it and what did we want to do, and um, we realized that um, we didn't have any cash. We had no cash savings, and um, we were close to max on those five credit cards. And so one of the first things I tried to do was to um, get an increase on those credit cards. So I went to talk to each of the creditors, and they said um, that they couldn't help us. That we had too much debt, and so we basically did not take a summer vacation. We didn't go anywhere. We spent time as a family, and we started to figure out, what we needed to do with our money, and that was kind of our rock bottom moment. I like to think of it as, that really sparked us to get interested in increasing our knowledge about personal finance and moving forward. One of the things I thought, well, I figured there had to be some get out of debt quick, solutions that nobody ever told me about or taught me in high school or college. But what I found was that there was really some common sense principles. I found Dave Ramsey. I found several, personal finance blogs, and it was really just common sense steps, right? It was just a different way of thinking about our money. It starts with building a budget. We built our budget, put it down on paper, got it in, eventually got it into a spreadsheet. I'm a father of three children. We involved the children because we wanted them to understand that there were going to be changes. My wife and I had to first kind of get on the same page of how we were going to approach paying off our debt and how things would look as far as our budget. So once we were agreed on the plan, then we kind of involved the kids, because the changes that we would be making would affect them. So we wanted them to be involved. And one of the first things we did was we decreased our expenses. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but decreasing your expenses is something you can do, tonight or tomorrow. There are things that you can, sacrifice and cut out of your budget. And the other way to help with getting out of debt is to try to increase your income. Maybe that's taking on more hours at your current job, or maybe working a part-time job or a side hustle. So there's definitely ways that you can do that. And if you're able to do both, decrease expenses and increase income at the same time, that's really the win-win, and that's really going to help you. So, we saved an emergency fund, but let me just back up a little bit. We were in $109,000 worth of debt over 5 credit cards, and we had to come up with a way of paying that off. And so we found, some ways. We read about some different techniques, and we basically ripped up those 5 credit cards and started, cutting back on what we were spending. And it was tough. Those first couple months when we didn't have credit cards and we were trying to trim back our spending, it was new to us, and we hadn't done it for 10 years or so, and so it was a little tough the first couple months, but then it got much easier. We were able to adjust as we went, as we kind of figured things out and increased our knowledge on the topics of personal finance and just basic money management. We were able to figure it out. We paid off that debt in 50 months, so a little bit over 4 years, and it was a roller coaster. There was some things that happened along the way. We had emergencies. The car broke down. The dishwasher blew up. My wife was in a car accident during that time. She was out of work for a year. But what we started to realize, what was important, that because we were now in control of our money and aware of where it was going and how we were spending it, that those things were just, life happens. Those things will happen. And we were able to deal with them a lot easier than we would have been if we didn't have a plan for our money. It was, those things are still stressful, but they were less stressful because we had an eye on our money and where it was going, and we were working a plan to get out of debt. So once we were out of debt, we had saved a $50,000 emergency fund. So we actually had $50,000 in a bank account, and that we had never had that kind of money in a bank account. And so that really is a stress reducer, knowing that you have a plan for your money and you have cash savings, so that if something comes up, you can deal with it. Whatever it may be. Like I said, if something breaks, or somebody's out of work, or whatever the case may be. This is a quote I always like. You can't afford. It should be, you can't afford. Let me reread that. You can't afford anything. You can't afford everything, right? So if you put your mind to it and save your money, you can buy that, whatever it may be. Go on that vacation you want to go on. Go on, the trip of a lifetime, or buy that car you've always wanted. But you have to prioritize what's important to you, and that's what we did. We realized, trips, family vacations were important to us. And there were some things in our lives that weren't so important, and we cut those out. Subscription services, things like that, things that we were spending money on, but they weren't really a priority in our lives. And so we had to kind of make that decision. And this is our family on a after or during one of our first paid for ahead of time in cash, family vacations. And it was probably one of the best vacations that we had up until that point, because there was no stress. When we came home, we weren't worried about the thousands of dollars now that were increased on our credit cards. It was really a good feeling, and it was a really enjoyable time, with the whole family, and we could see it in the fun that we had as a family, spending time, and and not having to worry about coming home and going back to work and trying to figure out how we were going to pay for that vacation. And then shortly after that high moment, we had a low moment. I lost my job. A company that I had worked for over 20 years. And I was in work one morning, got a phone call to come down to HR, and they said, your position was eliminated. You're no longer needed. Turn in your phone and your ID badge, and you're on your way. Luckily, there was a severance package involved, and we had the cash savings. So we had, it was it was a stressful, to be gone from a company and coworkers and for that amount of time. But from a financial standpoint, it was really not that stressful because we had a cash savings, and I would be getting a severance package. And so, we dealt with it. And I'm sure, over the last year or so, there's been a lot of people that have had issues with, job loss. And I think of this as if we didn't have a plan for our money, if we didn't have money saved, it would have been a total different experience for us. The job too that I had was very stressful. I was a salaried employee. I was on call all the time, phone calls in the middle of the night, and it really wasn't worth my time for the amount of money I was making. And so I was able to find another job with a better work-life balance, less stress. It tied into my perspective at the time, the way we were handling our money and the way we were looking at things in our life, that I was able to go from a high-stress job to a low-stress job with a better work-life balance. And it was good for the entire family. I mean, certainly for me, but really good for the overall family. So, that's our story. My family and I, we've been featured on Good Morning America, talking about how we've gotten out of debt. I've been on podcasts. I wrote an ebook. So I've been really involved in the personal finance space for almost 10 years now. We started in 2010 to get out of debt. The tips that I'll explain to you tonight are really just informational, good, personal finance tips and principles, but you really have to make it personal. And I mean, that's why they call it personal finance. You have to take these techniques and fit them into your lifestyle. What may work for me may not work for you, because maybe you have, 4 kids or 5 kids, or you don't have any kids. So it's really important to remember that there's a lot of principles out there and a lot of, personal finance rules, but you really have to make it fit your lifestyle, your unique situation. So I think that's, that's important that you do that. But you must be ready for a change. You have to be ready. It's like starting, to diet, right? Or to change the way you eat to try to lose weight. You have to be ready for it, because if you're going to go out to dinner and get tripped up because they offer you dessert, maybe you're not ready to make that change. So you really need to be ready for the change, right? And personal finance is really about, it's really about your mindset and your mentality. 90% of it is really going to be, your mind, willpower, and being able to be ready for a change. And the math part is really easy. Figuring out how much income you have and where your money's going. You can do that on a piece of paper, pretty quickly. It's going to be more about, your mentality and goals, and, how quickly can you accomplish the things that you want. Can you break those bad behaviors? We were just overspending over all those years, and we just accepted it like, it's okay. Everybody has debt. We're okay. As long as we can afford the minimum payment, we're fine. So we really had to change that bad, thinking and that bad behavior. And we defined a why too. You really got to have, what's your reason? Why do you want to get out of debt? Why do you want to get your finances together? For us, it was, like I said, we wanted to spend time on vacations as a family. We wanted to provide better, future for our three children. My wife and I, we wanted to provide, like I said, vacations and give them a better foundation so that when they start their financial lives, that they were better prepared than we were, so that they don't fall into the same mistakes that we had made. And it really starts, with building a plan. Yeah, you have to have a budget. Um, people say, I don't like budgets. Well, but it's a starting point. You need to know how much money you have coming in, how much money you have going out, um, and then is there any surplus? Is there, are you overspending every month? So it's really just getting your numbers down on paper. You want to obviously know your income versus your expenses. How much do I have coming in and how much do I have going out? One of the tips that I always like to offer is to track your expenses for 2 or 3 months. And you can probably easily do that with your bank or any, there's different apps that you can use, but I know I can log into my bank account, and I can see all the different transactions. And then you can kind of go through them and kind of see where your money is being spent. Are you eating out a lot? Are you, buying things? Are you, retail, Amazon? And really kind of get a sense for where your money's going, by kind of reviewing your history over the last couple months. And this is an example budget. This is really just, I like to be as much, I like to have a lot of detail. So, you can have your income, how much you make, each week, or if you have, double income, husband and wife. And then, for the expense side, mortgage or rent. And I like to put the date that it's due. So I have a good idea. I know based on when my money's coming in and what time it has to go out to pay, the bills. And you really want to try to be as detailed as possible. Utilities, cell phone bill, insurance, whether you have credit card bills or student loan debt, food, medical, gas, whatever it may be. You want to capture everything. And so looking back at those bank expenses for 2 or 3 months might help you build that initial plan. And you got to see if it balances. Are you spending? And in this example, there's a surplus of $16.86 per month. But there may be, when we first started our budget, we were spending more money, and that's why we relied on using credit cards, because we were overspending. So this was a negative number for us. So it's a good eye-opening experience to kind of see what's going on. I talked about it already. Communicate the plan, right? Your spouse needs to be on the same page. You want to get everybody involved. And that's what we did. Once my wife and I came to an agreement, we got the children involved, explained to them what we were doing, why we were doing it. And we would have some conversations along the way. Ice cream and cell phones. Ice cream, was one of my children's favorite desserts, right? And we used to get ice cream at the ice cream truck. And, for 3 kids, or if my wife and I decided to get, it could be, $15, $20 every trip to the ice cream truck. And so I explained to the kids, I said, I know you enjoy ice cream, but what if we took that same $15 we spent tonight and went to the supermarket and bought ice cream? And they were like, we like the ice cream truck. But I said, well, if we buy the ice cream at the supermarket, we can have ice cream the entire, the whole week. You can have it for dessert every night if you want. And they really liked that idea. Although, underlying was saving money and a discussion about money. They just saw it as a way to get dessert more frequently. But, as they got older, we talked about cell phones. Every, young, preteen wants a cell phone. So we were able to talk about, the cost of a cell phone, the monthly cost, how much it costs to buy the phone, and all those different things, and how many hours you would have to work to pay for that cell phone. So that was a really good discussion. I think the kids maybe thought they were getting new cell phones because of that discussion, but it was a good way to keep a captive audience when you're dealing with with kids. Do you want to be a millionaire? That's a question you can throw out to them, and you give them some tools to figure out how they can accomplish that. Because I think kids are, when they hear millionaire and they think of music or sports or movie stars, and they owe them the millions of dollars that they make. Well, it's possible for them to do it at a regular job. It really depends on how you spend your money. So it's kind of like dangling the carrot with the millionaire. And children have a massive advantage. Their youth, right? If they can start handling their money at 17, 18 years old and make good decisions going forward, they can very easily be millionaires by the time they're 30. So let's focus on debt for a minute. If you need to get out of debt, student loan debt, credit cards, consumer debt, car loan, whatever it may be, right? The best thing you can do is stop, today, adding new debt. Just don't, swipe the credit card for dinner or for a purchase. That's the best thing you do, because the sooner you can stop building new debt, you can begin working on getting out of debt. It's going to be tough, right? It's mindset change. You got to change some behaviors. It's going to take sacrifice. You're going to have to say the word no a little bit more often. You just got to keep that in mind. And that's one of the reasons why we talk to our kids about it, because, we're going to have to say no to them for some things. And so we wanted them to be aware that mom and dad just weren't being mean, that, there was a reason why we were saying no a little bit more often. You need to change your behaviors, right? You need to break those bad behaviors. And you need to figure out what they are. Where are you overspending? Where can you cut back? The latte factor, the unconscious spending on little everyday things that do not add value to our lives, right? So, that could be eating out. That could be, a number of things. You have to figure out what that is for your personal situation, right? And prioritize those things. If a cup of coffee, from Starbucks is priority, then go for it. But just work it into your plan, work it into your budget. One of the key tools you'll hear about when trying to get out of debt is either a debt snowball or the debt avalanche. We use the debt snowball to be able to get out of our over $100,000 worth of debt. So you pay off. The debt snowball works by attacking the smallest debt first, and then making minimum payments on all the other debts. So that's what we did. We have 5 credit cards. We threw as much extra money as we could against the smallest so that we could pay that off. And when we were done with that, we took that money that we were sending to that credit card and rolled it over like a snowball rolling downhill to the next debt. And so now that debt may have, if the minimum payment was $200, now it may have been, we were paying $300, and then so on down the line, right? Once you get done with your second debt, you can take the money that the payments per month from the first and second debts and now throw it at the third debt. And it just builds momentum. Like a snowball rolling downhill, you're able to build that momentum. And once you pay off one debt, you feel like you've accomplished something, and you have, because you've eliminated a certain amount of debt, and now you're building momentum as you move forward. Now, the debt avalanche is another technique, and that's where you attack the largest interest rate debt first. So same kind of principle. You would throw any extra money you can and get rid of that debt, and then move it down the line. And that's really going to be a personal decision how you want to attack it. Whether you want to use the debt snowball or debt avalanche, really totally up to you. But just 2 good tools to use. Emergency fund, right? Emergency fund, some type of cash savings is so important. It's your peace of mind fund, right? It's cash savings. You start out with $500 or $1,000. You put it in a bank account somewhere that's not tied to a debit card, so you can't just easily pull money out of an ATM to get to it. You want to make it a little bit tough to get to, and it's really for like I said, when life happens, right? You get a flat tire, the dishwasher blows up, the emergency happens, whatever, somebody gets hurt or whatever the case may be, so that you don't have to rely on going into debt to pay for, the thing that just popped up. 500 you can start with, or $1,000 is probably pretty good, because $1,000 will cover pretty much any event. A car breakdown, or like I said, something happening around the house. And then, once you're able to pay off debt, you want to increase that. Once you get rid of your debt, you increase that to maybe 6 or 12 months of your expenses. Um, and it's really key, because it'll be such a stress reducer for you if you've got cash savings, because if something gets thrown at you, you'll be able to deal with it. And they call it personal finance for a reason. I mentioned that earlier, right? All of these things that I'm talking about, you have to fit it into your personal situation. What works for you? Um, we focused on the end goal when we were paying off our debt. We thought of it. Well, think of whatever your debt is today, whatever your largest debt is. Maybe it's a $500 a month car payment. If you didn't have that, what would you do with that extra $500? Would you save it? Would you put it towards retirement? Would you put it in a savings account for a vacation? So if you focus on that end goal, and we were paying almost $2,000 in credit cards per month. So once we were able to get rid of those, having a surplus of $2,000 per month was, amazing. You could save that for, a month or two and go on a vacation. You could save it for a year and, remodel the kitchen. You could save it, for, a couple months and buy a newer car. So once you kind of figure that out, and what your life would be without those debt payments, I think it would really kind of get you energized and excited. Like I said, you got to build a plan that fits your personal, situation. Everybody's situation is different. Everybody makes different amount of money. Family dynamics are different. Could be single, could be divorced, could be, you have kids, whatever the case may be. You just really have to build that into your own, personal situation. What things are important too? What things are, is Netflix important to you because it's something you do on a Friday night with the family? So maybe you keep that subscription, right? But maybe there's some other things that you're spending money on that are not that important. And so you have to prioritize where you want to spend your money on. Well, that's a personal choice. And then so once you're out, if you're able to get out of debt, pretty quickly, and then now you have a surplus, you really want to be able to build wealth. You want to be able to, invest or save. Look up compound interest on interest, right? So as you start to save or invest, you begin, to build, compound interest, month over month and year after year, and that'll really add up. And I like to think of it as, if I can get my three, 20-something-year-old children, saving and investing at an early age, the sky's the limit for them. If you work at a company that has a 401k, make sure you're getting the full match. It's free money, right? So if if you have a 5% match, make sure you're investing, or saving 5% in your 401k. So you're not leaving that money on the table. It's going to help you build wealth that much quicker. One of the things that has been very popular over the last couple of years is the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. And it's an incredible concept. It's one that I've talked to my children about. Being able to save a high percentage of your income every month or year, 40, 50, 60%, and being able to retire early. Being able to retire in your 30s. I know several millionaires who have retired early, 30s, 40s, just by saving an incredible amount of money and being very focused on their finances. So I'm going to stop sharing. So that's pretty much it from the presentation side. I'm going to take a look at the chat here. Slide this window over. Not sure we have anybody in the chat right now, but So trying to think if there's anything else. I think you should really, you can check out my blog. It's brianbrandow.com. There is some resources there. There is I have an ebook there as well. So if you have a teenager who's interested in learning a little bit more about their money, you can check out that ebook there. I mentioned that my family was featured on Good Morning America. I'll drop the link in the comments so you can see that. It's actually on my webpage as well. But yeah, and I describe a little bit more about what we did as a family on Good Morning America, which was really cool to be part of that. And I really think that's about it. I don't really see any questions coming in, so this is the first of the Financially Fit Fridays, doing it in honor of April being Financial Literacy Month. So I plan to be here every Friday. Hopefully, we'll grow the audience a little bit so that we can answer any questions that you may have. But I'd appreciate it if you would like and subscribe, like the video, subscribe to my channel. I will be posting more videos, over the next couple weeks, and we'll be back here on Friday, next Friday, the 9th, to do this all again. So hopefully we'll have some more questions coming in. And I think that's it. So really appreciate you checking out the video. Like, subscribe, comment if you would. I would appreciate it. Thanks very much.